Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter. So, I had a thought about our discussion previously about clutter buddying. And clutter buddying is a well accepted aid for those who want it. Um, but then I thought that if people are going to be pairing up from this podcast that I offer, I might have a responsibility to do a little bit of prep with everyone, so that the word clutter buddy is an actual truism. All right, that there is a need and there is support, legitimate support, well thought out support on both sides. So I decided that since my goal in supporting all of you who've expressed an interest in having or being a clutter buddy, my responsibility is to make sure as best I can that your experience will be successful, responsible, and productive. All right. By increasing both clutter buddies' ability to regain what I often hear is self-recrimination, self-blame, to regain self-respect and safety, right? But that's important that it happen in both of your living environments. So the person who is a buddy to the other, all right? As well as the benefits of that rolling over experience with yourself and the clutter buddy, and that you can acknowledge that you take some forethought. So we're going to go through a little prep today, and probably the next 3 to 4 podcasts are going to be about support and getting the support you need. All right, because clutter buddying can be a resource. All right, but as a resource, it will also help break down the isolation. If COVID did anything to us, it taught us that man is not an island. All right. We are social beings. We don't do well when we isolate. And hoarding is renowned for both reality isolation, not going out, not inviting people in, but also the side effects of the self blame and the fear of being discovered, the shame, isolates a person within themselves as well. It can isolate you from the other half of yourself, your better self, or your braver self. All right. And so that isolation that so many of you have expressed experiencing, even though you work and you live with others around you, clutter can be very isolating. All right. It can be very depressing, and quietly and privately, it can be very shaming. All right. When your thoughts are things that come to mind, like, if only people knew the truth, no matter whether you're out in the public, performing at a job, performing well, this secret that you have, if only people knew, comes to mind. If I had a nickel for every time someone has said that or something so like it, I'd be a very wealthy woman. All right. So, a good clutter buddy and the benefits that you give and receive can also help to navigate people through every day. The skills that and the awareness that I'm hoping comes out of the next 3 to 4 podcasts will has the potential to be very beneficial to you as an individual, but also socially. All right. And I've heard that if only people know, from too many people for way too long a time. All right. So I'd like to support your efforts to find the right clutter buddy and to be the right clutter buddy and to have the skills to keep what can be a very valuable relationship on healthy terms, both for you, yourself, and for the other. And we're going to start by reflecting on respecting the foundation of clutter buddying. And that foundation needs to be built on some skills and some strategies. And I hope that to coach you in those skills and strategies, as I said before, in the next few podcasts. And then I hope to support you successfully long term, not just to find the right person, the right person who you happen to like, but the person who can bring out the best, all right, in you, and you be prepared and able to reciprocate by giving them the same opportunity to reaffirm themselves, all while dealing more intensely, probably more effectively, with the clutter that troubles you. All right. And to deal with it once and for all. So once you learn the peer support and the conflict resolution skills, because there will be in any human relationship, it's just a matter of time before harmony goes to not so much harmony. And how to resolve that, all right, is an important skill. And I'm hoping that those same skills, the skills to achieve and the skills to overcome conflict, can become life skills, all right, that you then can apply in many other areas of your life. Because this world is not absent of conflict, believe me. All right. And you can do that in your personal life or your professional life. It's almost a truism that when people are concerned, the whole foundation of clutter buddying is based on this. That most often when people are concerned or they're distressed or they just feel like they're a little off the path, they want to talk to someone who understands. They start with peers and they often move on as they become more self-aware and they want to achieve more, perhaps faster. Sometimes that also then becomes a professional mental health worker. The beauty of doing this in this podcast is that we have both of those resources available free of charge, all right, in this podcast. And I know for a fact that with the right information and the right practice skills, we can assist each other, all right, ourselves and our peers in many ways, all right. Now, the healthiest ways is to respect altogether now mutual boundaries and limits. That is going to be a foundation piece. All right. So, our next few podcasts are going to be about refreshing your boundaries and limit skills. It isn't going to be expressly about boundaries and limits. It's going to be incorporated into something that I invested in. Where did I put it? All right, it's here somewhere. A huge book on, put it here. Oh no, I put it over there. On peer support. All right. And it's intensive because it comes in 2 books. All right, so we're not going to go through every page of 2 books on clutter buddying, but I'm going to draw on the salient points that I think are most likely to play out as you choose and as you are a clutter buddy. Okay, all right. So the boundaries and skills about how we can be sure, number 1, all right, first point, how we can be sure that we are hearing and interpreting what our clutter buddy is really saying, rather than jumping in just trying to make them feel better. All right? Especially when you are expressing your need, your distress, your fundamental need. All right? And when they are reciprocating, when they express their feelings. We think we understand our feelings, all right? But sometimes we jump in too quickly to try to make the other person feel good. All right. It's not that we're trying to make them do the opposite and feel bad, but you don't want to be a rescuer. All right. Clutter buddying is not about nodding and saying, yeah, me too, and rescuing people. Clutter buddying is about being a buddy. All right. And through these next few podcasts, I'm hoping that I'll be able to help you learn or maybe just be reminded, all right, about the effective ways that we as helpers can respond to what they are actually telling us, all right, and do that within boundaries that respect ways of how we respond, all right, and the ways that we try to help our clutter buddy, all right. Advice is never a good idea. Sharing experience is a good idea. I had this difficulty. I did this. It worked well in this way. It didn't, but here was a hidden cost. So sharing experience is one thing, but not as a veiled way to give advice. Because no matter how well you choose your clutter buddy, you are not going to be the Bobbsey twins. All right. You're different people with different needs. All right. So we're going to help your clutter buddy to find themselves better, and also to find more successful, not perfectly successful. All right. And livable ways to deal with and manage their problem. And we will learn in doing that better ways to express our own thoughts and our own feelings. And when we have them reflected to us by a clutter buddy who is staying on their side of the line, but being supportive, being helpful, being challenging, all right, in that exchange, we'll also probably experience our own thoughts and feelings, and they will be more understood first and foremost by us about ourselves. We in clutter buddying, we're not just learning about the other guy, we're also learning about ourselves more. All right. And also for both of you, you and your clutter buddy, how to reduce the negative fallout that often comes from telling someone who hasn't made the effort, all right, to understand what you're really saying. All right. How to reduce the negative fallout, the frustration, the disappointment, the negativity. All right. All right. And they haven't taken the time to understand what you're really saying and also what you are really living with. All right. With your clutter, and even if that clutter has extended to the point of being a legitimate hoard. All right. So another skill you'll learn is how to confront others, yet maintain good feelings in the relationship. Because sometimes there will be situations where somebody tries to rescue you. Somebody tries to interpret to you what you're really saying instead of listening and asking you, is this what you meant? And that'll be frustrating because you're not entering into a clutter buddy relationship because you don't want that reciprocity. You want to be understood, but you want to be understood at the level and to the degree that you want to expose yourself. And that will be different for each person. Just because you have a clutter buddy doesn't mean you do the equivalent of strip down and run around naked in front of each other emotionally and psychologically. Everybody has limits and they have ways that they develop trust. All right. Okay. So there can be very few things as frustrating as having somebody else tell you they know what you feel because they've had it too, and this is what it is. On rare occasions, that's the bullseye. But the bullseye, there's only one bullseye for all the rest of that target, okay? So there's nothing more frustrating, and you want to learn how to reset that behavior, and that can feel like a confrontation. All right. And I don't want you to back away from it because you're wasting time and you are putting real trust and real exchange and honest exchange that both of you can engage in jeopardy. All right. Then it's spin the wheel and let's guess at what the number's going to be instead of dig down for the truth. You for yourself, them for themselves. And also, you'll be learning during this, I've repeated it too many times, multi-podcast clutter buddying. I'm calling it an orientation. How to help others learn how to help them, not teach them, not advise them, but help others to learn to solve problems and put their solutions into action, their solutions for themselves. All right. The end result is that you can build on your own ability as a natural carrying helper. That's going to come in handy many times in your life, all while practicing your ability to do the same for yourself. Because you can ask yourself the same questions you would ask your clutter buddy. We don't do that often in the course of a normal day. That's a really good skill to develop. All right. And also, all right, to receive respectful, boundary respecting input from others that supports but also challenges us, right? And what does clutter buddying challenge you to do? To find increasingly better answers for ourselves, as well as supporting the same in the other. Now, who also will know that we don't have the answers for others. That's really important for us to integrate, to digest. I don't have the answers for you. I have a lot of experience with a lot of people who have shared the same experience you are having. All right. That I have. My skill is in helping you dig down and find your own answers. And when you seem to be stalling out, offering you what I have been told has been useful from 23 years of other people who have gone before you so that you can try it and see, do those shoes fit? All right. And to the degree that they do or don't, adjust and adapt. All right. So, okay, so I'm hoping also that in this process, all right, we will all learn to become a more caring person. You can never max out on being a caring person. But a caring person is not necessarily a do-gooder, a warm, fuzzy do-gooder. All right, that's a mistake. So as you become a more caring person about others, you're also able to become a more caring and forgiving person of yourself for the pasts that you have fought through. All right. You can put those to bed to rest more effectively. And we're going to do these with basic skills. All right. That I'm hoping each and everyone who wants to be a clutter buddy, wants to have a clutter buddy, will be able to do, like being an effective helper, active listening to others one-on-one. This orientation is going to help you to become a better friend and support to each other, right? And also to yourself. And where was I the other day that I heard? I think it was the Surgeon General in the United States. I don't know if it was recently or coming out of COVID. There now has been a new epidemic that has been diagnosed, and that epidemic is loneliness. All right. And there are few things as lonely as someone who hoards. Even if they're out there engaging socially, the feeling of personal duplicity, not being authentic, not being able to be authentic, being afraid you wouldn't be accepted, um, which sometimes is a valid concern. We have a lot of know-it-alls, all right? I could name one or two, but I won't. And they're also come in the guise of do-gooders. All right. So there's nothing as lonely as being stuck in a population with those kind of people involved. And we're not short of them, believe me. As you learn to get better, it's not that you don't know how to do this already, but to get better, to be more conscious of what you're doing, what you're saying, all right? Phrasing your questions differently, your concerns differently, really increases your ability to relate to others authentically, right? From who you really are. And the more you are accepted for who you really are, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, the more you accept yourself. All right. It's in trying to be somebody you are not while you're doing something or helping somebody that makes you feel, well, you have an experience of being not authentic, like you're a phony. This isn't how you really feel. This isn't how you really, whatever. That is very distancing you from yourself. All right. You're good enough just the way you are. If you didn't get better, you're still good enough right now. You came into this world worthy. Right? And through the bumps and bruises of life, we put that in question. We question ourselves and others question us. We are worthy of love. We are worthy of respect even when we are 100% wrong, so long as we are not deliberately hurting someone else by that wrongness. All right. And we are worthy of compassion, love, respect, compassion. So if you are one of the people who have told me you're out there and you are not respecting yourself, you don't respect yourself because of the clutter, because of the hoarding, all right? Know that is a feeling you honestly have. I understand and respect it. But you were born, all right, being worthy of respect, even when you're wrong. And compassion. Compassion for yourself. That's not excuse making. All right. That is in the balance of life, on that scale of life, putting what the weights have been and what your adaptations, your ability to manage those weights have been. Where are you? All right. That's all this is. And I also want to tell you one other thing. If you've asked yourself the question, what can I do? What is wrong? Why am I doing this? Why can't I get past this? Why does this keep happening? If you're asking yourself that question, I have news for you. You have the answers inside you. You already have the answers. The struggle is to find those answers and put them into effect. And remember what Brianna West said. I believe this firmly. Whatever our symptoms are, and we'll call this a symptom, all right? It expresses an unmet need we have. And I have news for you. The unmet need is never, ever more of the problem that caused it, the things that cause it. Those are substitutes that we have learned and settled for in order to quell the lack of peace and self-love and safety that we feel the need for. Self-love, respect, and safety. All right? Are any of those lacking enough in your life? What do you need right now? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make enough of a difference? Those are the 3 questions you ask yourself when you feel the most unsafe, most vulnerable, and when you are the most in pain. What do I need? Where is it? Because it's a piece of it, some of it, enough of it is always available. But in our depression, in our looking down, we don't see it. We're not looking for it. We're looking for perfect, maybe. No, perfect doesn't exist. Enough of it to make enough of a difference. Right now, I want to stop and I want you to take out your pens and paper and I want you to ask yourself one question. And I want you to be as honest as you possibly can. Right now, in this moment, what do you need? What do you most need? After this podcast, I want you to do a 5 minutes, all right, a brainstorming around and from the most ridiculous to the most in your face places that a little piece of that need could be met. And it isn't chocolate, by the way. It's never chocolate. Yeah. It might be ice cream, but it's never chocolate. I'm joking. That was a joke. Ha ha. Okay. Okay.
Chocolate ice cream.
Any ice cream. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Okay. We will learn through this process, not just to relate to others, in ways that will create friendships that develop the skills and cause you to value yourself. All right. And others more. These very same skills and strategies we're going to go through in the next few podcasts, you can use for yourself as well as for others, with others. Okay. So first, I'll explain and demonstrate, all right, hold on, the new skills. Second, you'll practice the skills, all right? And you'll practice the skills with others, and we'll break out, not in this podcast, we'll break out into groups, and we'll do dry runs of the different skills, the different strategies that we're going to talk about, all right? Then you'll receive feedback from the others in that group. All right. And you'll learn through that feedback peer helping skills. And that will sometimes not be an entirely comfortable experience, but it will be a very important experience. All right. Now, here's some things that have to be true. To learn peer helping skills, which you then can use for yourself, you have to be involved actively. You can't sit back and just treat it like it's a formula. You have to put it on like you put on your most comfortable pair of shoes. And you have to be involved actively in listening all right, to what is happening. So we'll break down into those groups, and through those tiny groups, we will support each other. How much you learn will depend entirely on you and, and how much you want to learn. All right. Even if you don't want a clutter buddy, this is an exercise where you can be a better clutter buddy to yourself, even if it's not another person. Some people aren't pairing up types. That's okay. But you can be a better clutter buddy to yourself by asking yourself different questions, by going about it in even a slightly different manner. If you don't want a clutter buddy, you can participate. I invite you to participate by joining in and just being honest feedback according to the skills that we're going to go through. We're going to learn, right? And you can offer feedback as if you were the clutter buddy, right? How you would have received what is being said by the other who's testing out. Am I expressing myself honestly, truly, and am I respecting common boundaries and limits? Clutter buddying isn't a collision of two people who have the same issue, okay, and work from the same blindness. All right. Clutter buddying is a process. It's a process of helping one another while receiving the help you need in return for the help that you offer. So here's the agenda, okay? And here's the agenda that I've decided I think is best. I'm open to feedback. And my purpose is to set a standard that protects all parties. I don't want somebody placing hope in having a clutter buddy, honestly wanting to engage and finding that the other person is a better taker than giver, is a better talker than listener. All right. That can be a habit. Doesn't have to be the person's a terrible person. That can just sometimes be a habit. And in this epidemic of loneliness that we're coming from, that we are hopefully finding our way out of, we're probably going to have more chance that that happens than doesn't happen. All right. It's not a reflection on the goodness or worth or honesty of the person. It just may be that some people are very lonely. All right. So here are the rules. Don't you love that term, the rules? Okay. All right. So first of all, write this down. Identify your reasons, your unique reasons for wanting a clutter buddy. Be prepared to make a mutually agreed upon, so that's a negotiated. And I would suggest negotiated step by step, as though you're walking down or you're walking upstairs to a higher level of relating to one another. A mutually agreed upon contract. It needs to be thought out. It needs to be expressed. It needs to be verbalized, and it needs to be enforced. All right. And that contract needs to satisfy both parties and the need that each of you have for wanting a clutter buddy. That contract is also the basis for what each party can count on. You don't want to negotiate times to get together on Zoom or however you're going to do that. All right. You don't want to negotiate that and count on it, look forward to it. And then somebody says, oh, I slept in. I'm not really awake. I haven't had coffee. What can you count on? All right, this is serious. There's an element of trust here. Learning about each other in healthy ways, not the emotional dump. All right, not premature intimacy, in healthy ways that are shared, that are stated, that are negotiated, and that each party has the right, that they are expectations. I would suggest you set the bar low to begin, and that you make it a stage-by-stage process. You don't need to walk into this relationship telling the worst thing you've ever done and the worst that the house has been, and, one time whatever happened, and, you don't need to do that. Trust is built. It's not given. The other thing that I'm hoping that this orientation that I'm offering, because so many of you have mentioned clutter buddying, all right, is based on healthy boundaries and limits. Write that one down. What are your particular boundaries? What are you comfortable with? How can you stage opening up to become a more fulsome partner relationship? How can you and your buddy that is comfortable for you identify common and shared problems? How can you get to a point where you're comfortable? It's like putting on your bedroom slippers, all right? Being clear in whatever it is you have to say without reservation, without guilt, without reliving any shame or embarrassment, and without obligation. Some people just want to share more. That doesn't place an obligation on you. You must always be guided by your own sense of comfort and safety. All right, you are allowed to be different from your clutter buddy. So long as you are not knowingly withholding, staying in knowing that you're not going to come out of the cupboard. All right. Okay. Both of you are negotiating basically a helping role for one another to receive and to provide as partners in this endeavor to support one another, because each of you understands, even if you don't clutter or hoard in exactly the same way, you understand better than Joe Blow. All right. Now, it was just a thought. Honestly, I'll say this idea of mine was just a thought. All right. And what would people think? You don't have to actually, you work from it. You don't have to actually disclose it. Prepare a resume. What are your qualifications to be a buddy? What do you bring to the table? And what are you hoping? What are you needing from your clutter buddy? Hoping is one level, needing is another. And what are your expectations? Be clear. First of all, be clear with yourself. Do a little homework on yourself. Probably wouldn't take you more than an hour to break that down to dig a little deeper, to make yourself accountable for knowing yourself in this relationship, which will be different from any other relationship you have. All right. Who are you? What do you have to offer? And what do you need from your clutter buddy? Might be a good exercise in establishing, if nothing else, clarity for you about why bother. Might also give you clarity about little parts of yourself that pop up. You think, oh, where did that come from? Okay, okay, is that something I'd want to share? Well, we're going to put it down here in to be discovered. All right. What are you looking for? What do you have to offer? It's almost that content on that quasi resume. Who are you? All right. It's kind of like an introduction letter to your prospective clutter buddy. Only you're doing it yourself. All right. And you're telling them in this resume you're writing or facsimile what you want them to know and what you hope they can do for you that you need help with. Does that sound like a half decent idea? I see a lot of pauses. Think about it. It's a way to help you in a structured way that you probably know already how to do, how to chunk down. Who are you today? What is your experience with hoarding, with clutter? What's worked? What's not worked? What are your needs? And what can you offer? You might also want to ask yourself another question. I know I can offer a lot, but do I put the whole schmear on the table? Or do I negotiate and kind of peel the layers back layer by layer as I learn to trust and count on this person? Resume word brings anxiety for me. It's okay, Michael. You're not getting a job here. You're getting a buddy. All right. You're getting a buddy. Yeah. You want the right buddy and you want to be the right buddy. All right. The way to get the best match here is to be yourself. First, you have to know that. When was the last time you asked yourself these questions? Life's pretty busy. And we don't often get a lot of opportunities to just be who we really are. The good, the bad, the brave and the not so brave. The super person in some areas and we really are struggling in others. You're allowed to be. Know this, bottom line on that resume, and whoever and whatever I am, so long as I am not leaning on you instead of leaning on myself, I have a right to be that. And I'm good enough. And I'm good enough. Okay? Okay, we're going to do about a 7 to 10 minute little exercise here. Okay. I want you to rate yourself as a listener. Okay? So H is high. Just put H beside the question later when you mark it. Your response is extremely helpful and meets all the conditions described in whatever is a helpful response. And that will be determined by the listener. Okay. M is medium. The response that you gave is of some help to another person. Some help. Okay. Low, L, the response is not helpful to another person. Okay, so here's some basic questions from this workbook. All right, so, and if they sound dim, all right, please just hang in with me. All right, just choose the closest to what you would likely reply. None of these answers are going to be a perfect fit for you. What's the closest, okay? And then score yourself by choosing which reply is most like what you would offer another person. Okay, so statement first. My boss is giving me a hard time, and no matter how much I do, he always finds something else that I need to do. Response 1. What have you done that always makes your boss find additional things for you to do? That's number 1. Okay. B. What does your boss think? I'm sorry. What your boss thinks is not important. Just tell him to lay off. An off-wished thing that we could say. Okay. 1C. You know, it's hard at times to accept feedback from your boss. 1D. It's frustrating that you work so hard and your boss gives you a hard time. Honestly and truly, what would your most likely response be of those 4? Just circle A, B, C, or D. Question 2. I'm new here and I'm so lonely, I'm afraid to make friends because I don't know if they'll like me. 2A. Why don't you just make friends anyway? 2B. You run from people so you don't have friends. 2C. You feel really lonely because you don't have friends even though you're afraid to reach out because you're afraid they won't like you. A, B, or C? Statement 3. Where did we go? Okay. I just lost my job. I had an automobile crash that totaled my car. I don't know what else could go wrong. 3A. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. It won't help a lot. 3B. You are really feeling down because you just lost both your job and your car. 3C. You know, sometimes it just feels like everything's wrong. 4. I try so hard to lose weight, but no matter what I do, I can't keep it off. 4A. Just quit trying and accept yourself. 4B. You don't like your weight. 4C. You feel discouraged because no matter what you do to lose weight, you just don't seem to be able to. A, B, or C? Statement 5. I don't like the boy that my son is hanging around with. They're always getting in trouble. 5A. Just tell him that he can't hang around with them. B. What kind of trouble are they in? 5C. You're concerned about your kids your son's hanging around with because they're always in trouble. 6. I have a coworker who can't keep her mouth shut. No matter what I tell her, she tells everyone. Now you write your response. What would you say to this person? Seven B. I really hate my job. It seems like there's nothing that I like about it anymore, and I am just stuck. I really hate my job. It seems like there's nothing that I like about it anymore, and I'm just feeling stuck. You write down your response to that person. What would you say? 8B. You know, it's really a hassle going to work every day. There is so much pressure to get things done. What would you say to that person? What would your response be? It's probably a very real concern about people. Next one, 9B. My kids are driving me crazy. They are always in trouble. It's hard being a single parent. What would your response be? I promise just one more. Okay. I just found out that I'm going to have an operation on my stomach. I hate hospitals and I don't like needles either. And there will be plenty of needles. What would you say in response to that? Okay. Pens and paper handy. I'm going to come back to that next week. So please keep those responses close by and we'll do a little exchange. All right. Clutter Buddy rules. These are rules that I recommend. It's up to you. It's your clutter buddy relationship. Okay. First of all, make a list of conditions that are important to you when you're participating in this clutter buddy relationship. What are the list of conditions? Two that I can think of are you don't talk over one another. Well, three actually. You don't interpret somebody else's behavior or what they've said like you know better than they do. All right. And the third is that when you set a time and a day and time to get together, probably online, you respect that. And that in respecting that day and time, you're not put in a position where you feel guilty because they're needier than you are in some way. They're busier, they only have, and so they only have this. And you feel obliged to put yourself at a disadvantage. Okay. Also, make a list of actions, actual do's that you need from your clutter buddy. If I could suggest, repeat that they not interpret you to yourself like they know you better than you know yourself. It's a biggie. Actions that they actually show up. Maybe a third is that there are, in this little time that you're spending together, all right, there are no distractions. You respect the time. Okay. Now, bring those questions and answers to next week because we'll share the lists and we'll have an open discussion on what the needs and expectations are from how many people here? Let me see. 49 people. Even if you're not going to be a clutter buddy, even if you don't want a clutter buddy. All right. I want your feedback. I want your input. All right, people. Just see where I am here now. Yeah, just one or two things. So, that you enter into this partnership with basic rules and norms to keep you and your clutter buddy feeling safe and on track, so that you don't feel like you need to, all the work is in keeping the other person on their side of the line. All right. Know that if you change the boundaries of the norms and rules when you join your clutter buddy, if you don't respect what your needs are and what your limits are, you want to be very careful. All right. Because it's important not just to have that information in your head, all right, but that you've actually been brave enough to share it and negotiate it right straight up front. And that they have done the same. Ask them to share the same way, so that you're not walking around blindly thinking you're in someplace you're not. All right. And that you're getting your needs met and they're getting their needs met. And no one is cast in the role of being the caretaker of the other. That when you match up with a clutter buddy that is not comfortable being needier than the other clutter buddy. This needs to be an equal and reciprocal contracted exchange. Contracted means you don't have to write it down and sign off on it, but you need to have said these things to one another. And you need to have given the person, if there's any difficulty, time to kind of reflect on, can they deliver on that? How much can they deliver on that? Is that level acceptable to you? Okay. And if that isn't happening, what is an appropriate way to disengage without hurt feelings, without blame, shame, or guilt? Okay. And then for those who want to clutter buddy, you've got the foundation pieces, all right? The parameters that have been acknowledged as equal. You're equal partners in this clutter buddy relationship, and they're healthy. Give that some thought this week. Come on back next week, and I will have more information for you. We'll start the orientation. And as I said before, even if you don't want to be a clutter buddy, even if you don't want to have a clutter buddy, you can be your own clutter buddy. And the questions, the skills, the strategies that we're going to talk about for the next few podcasts, you can use with yourself. You can bring to the podcast, and we can discuss openly. We can have arranged that the next podcast or the rest of that podcast is an open forum to hash through. Okay? Have a great week in the meantime. I don't know. I think this weekend is Thanksgiving for my American buddies here. So happy Thanksgiving. We've already eaten the turkey. And I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Make it a good one.